So, Megan, as you know, women are really looking to feel and look their best and feel comfortable in their skin. And it can be a challenge because women are so depleted from the moment we get up, we're up and like on, and we're serving everyone
Yes.
around us. So, I'm really happy that you're on today to help us figure out how to optimize our health and get strong again.
I'm so excited to be here and what a great topic to dive into. I'm excited.
Well, I say strong again. I know there's a lot of women who listen who are really doing a great job of taking care of their bodies. But for those of us who really want to optimize our health and really are still figuring it out, I told you before the mics went on, I finally lost the perimenopausal weight that
Yes.
I had around my midsection. And I had a big awakening because what I realized first and foremost was that I wasn't eating 3 square meals a day. So I'm actually eating more
Hmm.
and lost the weight almost effortlessly. And it was like a big wake up. So, what are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing women make as they're trying to optimize their health? Maybe get, it's not, so I don't want to make it so much about weight loss as much as just
Yes.
feeling good in your body and getting strong. But a lot of us do have that goal.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I'll congratulate you because that's amazing that you've just had this experience and we can make it a conversation. I'd love for you to share what you did as well. And second, I'll say you're right about the weight loss and feeling good. Oftentimes it does they go along with each other. And I don't support saying I will be happy when this number on the scale and nothing else. But it's true that we want to fit in our pants without feeling super uncomfortable. It's true that we want to look in the mirror and like smile and not have these negative thoughts. So this is okay. It tends to be so like only health or only body image, and there can be a little bit of both. I'm totally okay with that.
Yes,
So
thank you for
now,
saying that. Yes, no, for sure. And
yes.
when I worked with a friend on this and she said, "What's your goal?" I said, "It's not a number. It's literally what you said." I said, "I just want my pants to feel comfortable around my waist again. That's it."
Yes,
And
that
that's
is a
how I knew when
great
I was
goal.
there. It wasn't even about the numbers. For me, it was, I will say it
Awesome.
was about 4 pounds, but,
Yeah.
and in my mind, I figured it was, because it all
Hmm.
settled around the waist, just like overnight, eating the same as I had always eaten.
That's right. And so many people listening will be like, 4 pounds, that's nothing. But you're so in tune with your body because of the work that you do and the education that you have, that 4 pounds can be a big difference for more petite people in feeling not like ourselves and like ourselves. So it can be truly game changing, just as quote small as 4 pounds. So
Yes.
yay for that.
Thank
And
you.
now to answer your actual question, I think you hit the number one mistake that I see on the head. There's a number two and a number three, which maybe we'll get to. But the vast majority of women that come to me in their, let's say, 40s, 50s, sometimes even 30s, maybe beyond that, they're thinking that they're eating like a bird because they don't even have lunch. And then they're just grabbing a handful of their kids' goldfish, but it's just 10, and then they're maybe like having a half of a protein bar for lunch and they didn't really eat anything, but they're kind of having these little munches all day. And their body is learning to metabolically conserve, to slow down their metabolism because it's like, well, fuel's not coming in. We got to stay alive. So I'm going to slow everything down, which eventually can lead to things like hormonal chaos, thyroid turn down, all of that kind of stuff. But most people just tend to stop where it's like, ugh, I feel like I'm not eating anything and I'm not losing weight. And for them, the answer is just what you did, which is learn how to truly nourish your body. I'm often, or not, I'm surprised because I've been doing this for a long time, but people are surprised when they see the volume of food that I'm eating. It's like,
Yes.
really big, but it's
Yes.
very healthy food. And it takes that to make me feel nourished and stable and energized through the day.
Absolutely. And I love that you're using the word nourished because that's
Yes.
really what it's about. It is about getting that true nourishment. So, one of the mistakes then is not eating enough. And just,
Yes.
for me, it was just the busyness. So, if I would get hungry, I realized like I might eat two bananas in a day or even three. Like I just
Yeah.
grab whatever was fast. And it's
Yes.
not even that I was eating unhealthy. And truthfully, I was eating the same as I always had, but the
Right.
weight did just kind of creep on just out of the blue, which
Hmm.
maybe is a blessing in disguise because it helped me dial in my actual nourishment. And as a certified holistic health coach, I know better,
Yes.
but
I
we're all
really
busy.
love
Yes,
I love that you said it like a blessing in disguise because so many women do not think of perimenopause as a blessing in disguise, but it really can be if it gets you back in touch with your body. Does it come with challenges? Of course. Is it easy for most people? Absolutely not. But those challenges, just like a pearl formation, those challenges can turn into something really wonderful, which is relearning your body, reprioritizing your health, reprioritizing yourself, because
yes,
perimenopause comes at that crazy time when we're trying to balance our career exploding and our kids growing up and our parents aging and all of this kind of stuff. It's like, how much
totally.
more can I handle? And you're throwing hormone chaos on top of it. But yes, that's when it tends to happen.
Okay, so give us, you said there were three common mistakes. So one is undernourishing, two is
So, two is that pendulum swing where I literally had this client yesterday. She came to me for our first session and she said, I've been tracking my food every single day in my Fitness Pal. And I don't generally, I would say like 5% of my clients actually track all of their food. So that's not generally a practice, but
yeah.
this was her first session with me. And I looked at a day and I was like, oh my goodness, this looks really amazing. It was great. And it was a Monday that she showed me. And then I looked and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, she never tracked. And she was genuinely eating really healthy, nourishing her body well Monday through Thursday. And I asked her, is there a reason you don't track? Do you just need a mental break? That's totally cool. I love that mental break. She was like, well, one time I put in my calories on the weekend and it was like 4,600 on a Saturday, and that depressed me. And so I never do it anymore because I know the weekends are kind of like a blowout. And
Yeah.
I was like, aha. Okay. So you're restricting or you have the perception that you're restricting Monday through Thursday and you're being quote so good. I do air quotes for those not watching because I do not like the word good when it comes to health, but she would have said she's being so good and then the shackles come off and she feels like she has to eat everything or she gets to eat everything on the weekends, and that's very metabolically confusing. So I
Hmm.
don't believe in like living in this rigid world. I eat chocolate every single day. It's my
Me
favorite
too.
food.
Me too.
Yes, amazing. I
Yes,
just love it.
me too.
What a gift that it is also pretty great for our blood sugar and magnesium and all kinds of stuff. I like the research that shows benefits of chocolate, but I do
Yes.
also recognize that it's a pleasure for me and I love that. So I don't believe in taking out pleasure, but if you're kind of white knuckling Monday through Thursday and then going off the rails Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, this is a big inhibitor in actually losing weight. So that's number two. And then number three is also mixed into what you said before, which is we're not paying attention to underlying inflammatory conditions. And you know, but maybe your audience doesn't know, that almost everything is related to inflammation. So, probably the most frequently used handout in my practice is all about inflammation. And it just has inflammatory stuff on one side and anti inflammatory on the other. And we're trying to balance it out. But if someone is going through perimenopause, or they do have an autoimmune condition, or they do have leptin resistance, which is something I'm finding more and more commonly these days,
What is that leptin
and
resistance? So
yes,
just
so
so before we jump to the next thing, I want to make sure we are on the
absolutely.
same page with you. I've never heard of that.
Okay, great. Well, it's something that I actually think will be tested more and more and more as we go through the next, call it 5 or 10 years. Leptin is a hormone. So people think of hormones just as estrogen and progesterone. We have a lot of other hormones. We have cortisol, the stress hormone. We have insulin for blood sugar. We have ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin and leptin, I think of them like a seesaw, and I have to say grr, ghrelin, like grr, my stomach's rumbling. So then I remember that one means I'm hungry. Ghrelin makes me hungry. Leptin makes me full. And in a normally functioning body, ghrelin and leptin alternate. If I eat a meal, leptin increases, I'm full. That signals my body to stop eating. And then several hours later, ghrelin increases, I'm hungry.
Okay.
Over time, though, because of stress, because of overeating, because of undereating, because of other hormonal chaos, because of many, many different things, our body becomes leptin resistant, just like
Mm,
it can be insulin resistant, where all of a sudden leptin's in our bloodstream, but our cells are not receptive to taking it up. So now we don't feel full anymore, even though there's leptin in the
interesting.
blood.
The
And
signal's
then
not getting to the brain. Like you could stop now, you're
exactly,
good.
exactly. And so these are the people who are like, if I'm going to eat a quote normal portion, I have to mentally overpower. I have to really use my willpower. My body's not telling me I'm full. I just have to stop myself. They are likely to have leptin resistance. And it's like a terrible vicious cycle because leptin resistance then makes your body churn out more leptin, and that slows your metabolism and makes you more likely to put on fat. And now you're hungrier, and it's just steamrolling
Okay.
until we can get some control of it.
Okay. And was there another piece to it too? Because I didn't mean to interrupt you mid-sentence. I normally wouldn't do that, but I didn't want to
No,
jump
I
before
love
we just
it.
hit.
This is
Yeah.
great.
I get
Yeah, so we were
excited. Sorry.
I love the excitement, and we can go wherever you want. This is all good. The leptin resistance was one piece of the inflammatory whole puzzle.
Got it.
So, inflammation perpetuates or exacerbates any of these conditions. Anything that is, quote, abnormal or different in someone's body, if they're eating in an inflammatory way, that can make the condition worse, which makes it harder to achieve optimal body composition.
Okay. So I just want to take a step back a few things you said. What brand of chocolate do you like and how much do you have every day? I'm just curious.
Oh my goodness. I love so many brands of chocolate. In fact, my birthday was just a couple of weeks ago, and one of my teammates sent me this box full of individual bars of different organic chocolate bars that she had found, like funky brands. So it was like
Fun.
lavender sea salt and like ginger cardamom and all of this kind of stuff. So I really like exploring. I
Yes.
would say my top brands that I actually purchase myself are probably the Alter Eco. I like their dark, is it called Blackout or something? It's like
Hmm.
really dark. And then I like Hugh Kitchen a lot for the like sweeter ones, some of the almond butter ones and cashew butter ones. Those are probably my top two. And how much do I eat per day? I mean, I could tell you that it was perfectly one square every single day. The truth is, it kind of varies. If I honestly, I take magnesium, and I definitely believe in the magnesium need before your menstrual cycle or before the onset of the bleed. But those weeks, I'm definitely probably eating more than that. There are rare occasions when I don't eat any. I would say on average, a couple squares per day.
Okay, so we're the same on that. And also hue, I like the hue 70% dark and sometimes the
Yes.
cashew one, the
So
cashew
good.
vanilla. I'm just letting, I don't know. I think it's nice to have brands. So when somebody's going out
Yes.
there, here you are, doctorate in clinical nutrition,
Yes.
saying, here's the
Still
brand I
eating
like.
chocolate.
Yeah. And by the way,
Yep.
ladies, you can get it at Target for like $1 cheaper than Whole Foods. So just that's a
Ooh,
tip.
yes.
Just FYI.
Good.
So you can buy more chocolate. So
Love
that
it.
was one of the things that I did after having my like I said, much more nourishment, focus on protein. So let's talk about it because there's a lot of trends out there, and I think it confuses people, and then they get
Yeah.
frustrated. And I think working with somebody can be so helpful because once you have a roadmap, you feel more in
Yes.
control, and you're like, oh, yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense. It's not as confusing as I thought. So if you were to say, Michele, I want you to pull together a plate for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Generally speaking, I know there's bioindividuality. There might be issues, right? You mentioned autoimmune, like people might have their certain things that they're dealing with. But what would a
Hmm.
healthy, nourishing plate look like?
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with vegetables. I could start with protein because I think those are the two most important, but I'm going to start with vegetables because some people are still resistant to eating vegetables, and that fiber and the micronutrients are so essential. I do follow all of the emerging trends on carnivore diet and all these things, and I think maybe for therapeutic cases there could be some benefit,
Yeah.
but for the average person listening, we need our vegetables. And so I'll start with two fist-sized servings. So, like, ball up your fist and imagine a hunk of broccoli that size on your plate. Two fist-sized servings of any kind of vegetables that someone wants. If you want to do more than two fist sizes, I love it. Go to town. It's almost impossible to overeat on vegetables, so go for it. And then at least a palm size of protein. So, especially for my middle-aged women who are my most common clients, and middle age, I put myself in there too, anyone in their 40s and up. And maybe middle age is like up to 80 these days. So
I don't even
anything
like the
in
term midlife. What we don't even know where we're at in
who
life. We're just
knows?
somewhere.
I'm not a
And
teenager anymore.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
just say
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can't get
So
away with as much. The age that where you can't get away with as much.
yes, and maybe in life you can get away with even more. I'm newer to my 40s, and so I'm really embracing the like, wow, this feels good. I feel like I have earned my stripes. I can kind of do what I want around here. It's maybe a mental shift that I'm thrusting upon
Mm,
myself, but I'm embracing it. I like
good.
it.
Okay.
But back to the protein, for most of my whatever we want to call those clients, they're under eating protein. And I'm going to say at least 25 grams of protein. I don't care if you get it from animal sources or plant sources. I do think it requires a little bit more awareness and fine tuning if you're going to get it from plant sources. My older sister is a vegetarian, has been since she was like a teenager. And she used to be an extremely unhealthy vegetarian, like a McDonald's
Mm.
vegetarian.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
get the quarter pounder with cheese without the meat, just like the bun and the cheese. And like that just doesn't work out so well. Now
Yeah.
she's a very healthy vegetarian, but she has to be a lot more careful about getting her protein and combining appropriately and things like that than I do as an omnivore. So 25 grams of protein goes next on your plate. Then I say at least a thumb of healthy fat. We do need fat. Fat doesn't make you fat. Potentially the less healthy types of fat are not optimal for us in large quantities, but avocado, olive oil, chia seeds, flax seeds, nuts, egg yolks, whatever you want for your fat, at least a thumb size. And then we're left with everything else. So I call them bonus carbs first. So bonus carbs are starchy carbs like potatoes, they're rice, quinoa, parsnips, things like that. I don't think we need these to be healthy. I don't think everyone needs these to be healthy. I do think that very active people or people who are in hormonal transitions and having a tough time with that benefit from some strategically placed bonus carbs, whole foods carbs. So we talk about the portion size depending on the person. I would say on average, it's like a cupped hand. So not a fist anymore, but cup your hand like you were trying to catch water from the faucet and see how much you can fit in there, or half cup portion or so. And then the last category are things I call extras. They're not bad foods, they're not cheat foods, they're not treat foods, they're not anything like that. This is our donuts and our cookies and even our pastas and our whatever else goes into that category. I consider them as extra credit, just like you would get on your test. You don't need that to get 100, meaning we don't need any of these extras in our diet. But if they add to our full enjoyment of life, we just want to be
Yeah.
really strategic of those, of placing those throughout the week in a way that gives us most fulfillment.
Yeah. And what would that look like per week for that person who really wants that cookie or little slice of a cupcake or something like that, who really just, I don't know, just maybe it makes them feel comforted in some, like in a positive
Totally.
way, like just that
Yeah.
nourishing, like cup of tea with that. And it's like it satiates them. And then they're not going after more stuff because it truly satiates them.
Yes, absolutely. So what does it look like? It looks like different things for everyone. Like some might want that glass of wine with their partner, some might want the cupcake with their tea.
Got
That's
it.
why I put them all in the same category. It kind of just like
Interesting.
depends on what you like. But how many? I have a portion size handout and it says 5 to 14 servings per week. Now, this is a big variation. I would say if someone really is looking to tighten up, lose some of that body fat, really prioritize athletic performance or cognitive function, we're definitely going to be closer to that 5 servings per week or
Yeah.
potentially even less if we can do that mentally healthily. And then for someone who's like, hey, I feel great with it. I'm not trying to change body composition. Doing 2 a day, like having, a piece of bread with your breakfast and a glass of wine at night or a cookie at night, that might be fine for some people, those 14 servings a week. It really does just depend.
Yeah, and it does. And then paying attention to your body and how it's reacting. And do you feel more sluggish? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel
Yes.
uncomfortable? Or do you feel like you need a nap all of a sudden? Like your body's going to
Yeah.
give you the information. And that was something else that I've been paying attention to too when I did it. And I will say, because initially I cut all sugar other than my 1 to 2
Chocolate.
pieces of Hue because yeah, I
Yes.
said to my friend who was coaching me, who also got certified, we've like you and me through
Yes.
a certain program in New York. And she's like, it's not going to make a difference. Just have it. And I said, I think I need it because I think it's going to help me just feel like I need that little bit of sweet. And also, according to some of the doctors, including there's a doctor that was just on who wrote The Stress Paradox, Dr. Berquist. And one of the
Oh,
plants, uh, the all the plant varieties we're supposed to have includes the chocolate. So have your little
absolutely.
bit of chocolate and know that it's actually got so many healthy benefits to it. Um,
Yes.
okay, you mentioned inflammatory foods.
Yes.
Tell us what those are, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering your thoughts because some people say go for the full fat dairy, some people say don't touch dairy. I'm
Yeah.
just curious where you're at on that.
Yeah. So you're right that I consider dairy for most people to be in the inflammatory category. The inflammatory category has like 3 sections. The first section is pretty obvious. It's what people think of as foods that would go in that extra section. So it's fried food and it's Cheetos and it's ultra processed food and it's low quality oils and it's fast food and it's all that stuff. Also in there would be alcohol, which does cause inflammation. Then the second category is like the sneaky one. So these are things like I'm buying a snap pea chip at the grocery store at Whole Foods and it has sunflower oil or safflower oil or added sugar, or I'm buying a dressing to put on my salad and there's high fructose corn syrup. It's like sneaky things in there that actually do cause inflammation. And in that category would be gluten and dairy. So I don't believe that every single person has to go gluten and dairy free. I do believe that almost every single person in the US is eating too much low quality gluten and dairy,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think I saw, not I think, I did see a statistic several years ago that says the average American consumes gluten 8 to 14 times per day in various products. And that is a lot. That's more inflammation than our body can handle. Gluten can activate something called zonulin, which can contribute to leaky gut. And there's a spectrum. Of course, people with celiac disease need to be gluten free permanently. And then people like my husband, who doesn't seem to feel anything, even if he's eating a jillion servings of gluten per day, he can handle more. Most of us are somewhere in between where we need to just moderate that. And I feel the same with dairy. I know for me, I love dairy. I love Greek yogurt. I love cottage cheese. But if I get too loosey-goosey with dairy and I'm now having dairy 5 times a day or even 3 times a day regularly, I can see it in my skin. I can
Mm.
feel it in my gut. I just don't feel as great regularly. So then the question, if we're going to have dairy, and then I'll do that third and final category of inflammatory stuff. if we're going to have dairy and truly all we cared about was our health, like our longevity and our hormones and all this stuff, I would say full fat dairy.
Yeah.
If all we cared about was our caloric intake, which I encourage people not to have that be all they care about, then it would probably be fat-free dairy because that's lower calorie. Most of us care about something in between, like both of them. And so for many people, I'm recommending that 2 to 4% dairy. And I think it really, again, can be a spectrum. I would rather you have organic, good quality, as close to the farm as possible, any percentage of dairy than I would you have, American cheese or something, which is what I grew up on. So it's
Of
no
course.
shame if anyone's eating this stuff. But that kind of ultra processed, low quality dairy is much more inflammatory than any percentage in there.
Okay.
I'll do the third category, but I know I talked a lot. Any questions about that so far?
No, although I am doing full fat dairy, like a splat, like I don't know, it's more than a splash, and because I like chai,
Yeah,
or
yum.
and I don't really drink coffee, but if I do, it'll be full fat milk in there, and then I've integrated, which I've not usually had, Greek yogurt, plain.
Great.
And I'll have it with like blueberries and maybe like sprinkle on a little bit of sunflower seeds or something, and maybe drizzle it with a little manuka honey if I need a little extra
Yum.
sweet.
Yeah.
And it seems to be fine for me, but I actually had thought I wasn't fine with that. So I think again, see what you can do. But if I were having that, then I wouldn't necessarily have the cheese omelet, or, I might
Yeah.
save that for a different day. Does that sound right to you?
It sounds completely right. And full fat dairy, it sounds obvious when I say it, but people don't think this. It's a source of fat. So if you are having that full fat yogurt, you don't necessarily need almond butter and walnuts and chia seeds and whatever
Or
else on
sunflower
top of
seeds
that
because it's
yogurt.
fat.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the sunflower seeds have a little bit of fat, depends on how much you're putting in there, and also
Tablespoon.
depend.
Yeah.
Okay, very, very small.
Yeah.
Also depends on how you're using this. If this is like a meal that's supposed to last you for many hours, then you probably need more than that. If this is a little snack, then maybe you're fine without even the sunflower seeds. It really just depends in there.
Yeah. Okay. And so the third category?
Third category is not food, but it is just as inflammatory as the other stuff. It's stress, which people hate to hear.
Mm.
Stress is the source of most of our inflammation, and there's a biological process that actually creates inflammation. It's not just in theory. It's over and under exercising. So both. I've been on the spectrum of over exercising, and my inflammation in my labs was high from doing that, and also being sedentary. Inflammation can be high. And then it's just that kind of, I say I'm wired this way, but I think part of it is nature and part of it is nurture. It's that constant connection. It's our toxic exposures from the outside. It's our EMFs. It's our go, go, go. It's our inability to let our body down and our brain down. It's just like we're firing on all cylinders all the time. And that's an inflammatory way of living.
Okay, this is good. And when you said you checked your inflammatory markers, tell us what labs is that, like C-reactive protein? Like what are you looking at?
Yes, my very favorite is that high sensitivity C-reactive protein. Some people will run the plain CRP. I like the high sensitivity. It's just as it sounds, a little more sensitive. But I'm also looking at all kinds of other things like ESR or sed rate is a more I consider it like a more low grade inflammation. It might be from a mold exposure or a Lyme disease or something more
Mm,
chronic in there. GGT is an oxidative stress measure that's related to inflammation. Oxidative stress and inflammation are kind of different, but for most clients, I think of them as the same thing. I'll even think of insulin resistance as a sign that something is going on with the inflammatory pathways. And we could even find some signs in the CBC, just the blood cell counts. But my one favorite is that HSCRP.
and the GGT that you mentioned, or the ESR, are those regular labs that your regular doctor would get, or is that something you need to go see like functional or holistic
I
nutrition or
mean,
doctor for?
I don't have the exact answer, and here's why. I think the quote regular doctors are coming up to speed I wouldn't say relatively quickly, but they're at least coming up to speed. They're getting on our page a little bit more of, oh, there is value in going just beyond the CBC. So I have seen the ESR on many conventional panels that
Mm.
clients bring in. I see the GGT a little bit more rarely. They'll often run it if someone knows they have liver dysfunction or kidney dysfunction, because this is a very related to liver function, especially. But I don't see it all that frequently. But I will say, I literally order these labs every single day. And ESR, I believe in my lab, is like under $2. It's so cheap.
Oh, wow.
So if someone out there is listening, ask for it. The
Or
worst the
ask how much
doctor
it
can,
is, and then
yeah,
say, if my labs don't
I'll
cover
pay
this,
for
how
it.
much will it be out of pocket? So they don't get
Exactly.
surprised. Yeah, 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 in case.
Yes. There are tests out there that are a lot of money, so I
Yes.
get that. But
Yeah.
something like ESR being so cheap, if that's going to help us paint the picture, I see very little reason why people shouldn't run that.
Okay. And you mentioned mold. Actually, I think that's a big problem for a lot of people, and they don't even realize that they've had exposure. So if somebody wanted to know if they've had the exposure, what do they run for that one?
Well, unfortunately, the really good mold test is expensive. It's one of those, I think it's like
Oh, wow.
$460 or something, which is a complete mycotoxin panel that I run that
Ah,
tests all kinds of different, it's like the aflatoxins from peanuts and the molds that are common in your home and all these molds. So to really, really know, that's what we need. But
mycotoxin.
even the ESR can signal that something off. It doesn't tell you, yes, you have mold exposure.
Got
It's
it.
just like something's going on that
There's
your
some
body is
inflammation.
low grade. Yeah,
Yeah.
low grade fighting off.
And thoughts on the ANA.
I think the ANA is great. So a
What if it's
general
positive?
That's the problem. If it's positive, it's like, oh, shoot, we know something is going on. There's some kind of autoimmune reaction happening, but we don't know what it is. Even if they tell us the pattern, is it speckled or is it homogeneous and what's the titer and all this stuff, we still don't exactly know. And that can be a really frustrating journey for people. So if I have someone who I suspect has some autoimmune activity, I might run it. And of course, I'll partner with their rheumatologist or whoever else they're seeing, and we'll work on this together. But my approach would be, let's see if we can, one, heal the gut, and two, reduce the inflammation. And if we can get that ANA marker negative, then we have essentially caught the autoimmune before it comes into something full blown. I've seen that over and over and over by focusing on the gut and the inflammation.
Okay. If somebody possibly had autoimmune, would you say definitely restrict the dairy, definitely restrict the gluten? Or
It
there's
depends
no,
on,
it's bioindividuality.
well, it's bio and so let me answer the question the first way I think you're asking, and then
Yeah,
the real way I would do it.
please.
From a physical perspective, yes, especially gluten, I do not think is helping a single person with autoimmune activity. I
Okay.
think at least for a period, just from a physical perspective, gluten needs to come out.
Okay.
Now, what would I do in practice? I might not tell them that on the first time because it is going to tip some people off the edge and they're going to give up on themselves and they're going to give up on me if I say, starting tomorrow, gluten free, dairy free for the rest of your life. They're like, nope, I'm out. And I would much rather go on a slow path to healing that might take 6 months instead of 3 months, but have them be mentally healthy through the whole time. So if I can start with them to really nourish their body, get those vegetables in, focus on healthy fats, hit their protein, manage their stress, get them sleeping, do all that stuff. And then gradually we're crowding out the gluten and the dairy without them even realizing it. And then they're starting to feel so good a month and a half in that I'm like, hey, let's do a 1 week gluten dairy free experiment. They're like, sure. Then I'm like, well, that wasn't so bad. Can we keep it going? That tends to be
The path.
I would say 50% of people tend to be more successful with an approach like that.
Okay. And thoughts on sourdough? Like there's this, I love sourdough bread. There's a bakery. They make it fresh with the starter and the whole thing. You can buy the loaf and it's
Yes.
delicious. Thoughts on
Yes.
sourdough bread? Does that fall into a gray area or is that?
I think it's a gray area, meaning if you are a healthy person with a healthy gut and not celiac, I would say do it in moderation. Probably not that 8 to 14 times per day
Oh,
that the
yeah.
average
Like
person
a
is.
slice of toast in the
Yeah,
morning. Yeah.
totally. I would absolutely say do it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're actively healing your gut, even though that sourdough is fermented, or you're like at the beginning stages of an autoimmune issue or something, I may pull that back. But in general, I think sourdough as a fermented food with that reduced phytic acid, good quality grains generally used, I would say in moderation, go for it.
Okay, this is helpful. I like to get down to the nitty gritty with some of this stuff.
Yes.
Okay, this is so good. All right. You mentioned that the leptin, people who are leptin resistant, are those the ones who are going on the GLP-1s? We don't have to get too, I've not covered this on the show. I don't want to do a deep dive. I feel like that deserves its own thing. But do you prescribe
It's
those? Like, I'm just curious where your thoughts are on the GLP-1s.
Yeah, so no, I don't prescribe them. They are generally used for people with insulin resistance. That said, I see a very high overlap with insulin resistance and leptin resistance. Have I had many clients who have been on GLP-1s prescribed by other people? Yes. If I could prescribe them, which I can't, would I? No. I still am not a fan, and I recognize again bioindividuality, no shame to someone who is using it and having success. I think that's great, and I will work with you to make sure we can come off of it successfully and healthfully. But I am still, for the average person, still aware of potential thyroid implications, potential gastroparesis, potential mental health stuff. Honestly, it's like if the only way I can get healthy is giving myself an injection every week, and that's the only way I feel good about myself, there's a lot to unpack there. So I'm not a fan, but again, what works for every single person is great for them. If you're feeling good on it, do it.
I love it. Okay, this is helpful. Thank you for weighing in on that. I feel like I need to dedicate an entire show to that. What about building muscle and strong bones? Because this goes hand in hand with the nourishment.
It does. I would say when I started practicing 11 years ago, if I said the word sarcopenia, 1% of people would understand what I meant. And now these days, like 50% of people understand what I mean, which is amazing. So, sarcopenia is muscle wasting, which happens as we age. It does naturally happen if we don't change the stimulus, meaning if someone listening is not doing any strength training, they're not eating enough protein, they're not as active as they need to be, then yes, they will lose muscle with every passing year over age 30, believe it or not.
Mm.
So that's not what we want. Sarcopenia also goes hand in hand with osteopenia and osteoporosis. And we know that I actually don't remember the statistic, but it's something like for every two people ish who over 70 years old who break their hip, one of them will not get out of the hospital.
Yeah,
And that's alarming that it's
yeah.
even close, whether it's 40% or 50% or whatever, it's very close to that. That's alarming. And that one person who does get out of the hospital is probably the one with healthier muscles and healthier bones going into it because they have stores. Muscle is not only our largest glucose disposal organ, but it's a big old store of amino acids that in a trauma, like a broken hip, our body can use to help repair. So, having more muscle for any females listening, I don't think we'll ever regret it. And I promise you, as someone who works out hard myself and does not look like a bodybuilder, you won't look like a bodybuilder if you're lifting weights for 30 minutes 4 times a week. You're just not going to. You got to be in the gym 4 hours a day and probably take in some anabolic steroids or something like that. So don't worry about looking like a bodybuilder. Thankfully, looking toned and muscular is getting more in these days, which I'm glad about because it's better for our health. That is so important. So think about being strong, like you said at the beginning, and not necessarily about being skinny or wafy or thin. Any of that doesn't matter as much.
Okay. And what does it look like? Because I've been hearing a lot about this idea of lifting heavy. You see women who are 110 pounds lifting pretty much their like benching their weight. Like,
Yeah.
do 10-pound weights not count anymore? Like, give us a sense of where what we're supposed to be building up to because this I think is a little confusing.
It is confusing and it definitely depends on your goals. If you do want to do weightlifting competitions or something like that, of course you want to do those heavier weights. I personally don't want to do weightlifting competitions, so that's not my interest. I would say anything that feels heavy after a while. So if I'm sitting here doing a bicep curl with 1 pound, it would probably honestly take me like 60 minutes for it to feel heavy. That's not heavy. If I'm doing a bicep curl with 15 pounds, can I do it for many rounds? Yes. But after a minute, it's going to get really heavy. And that's a heavy weight. If someone wants to do 4 reps of bicep curls and maybe that's 30 pounds for them. Okay, great. It's just something that gets that feeling of muscle exhaustion, like,
Yeah.
ooh, I'm not sure if I can do 5 more. That's heavy with whatever you're doing.
Okay, because it's supposed to break down the tissue to rebuild. Is that the idea? That's how it works.
That's exactly right. So, real breakdown, people may hear of rhabdomyolysis. That's not what we're going for. You don't want to be so sore that the next day just to physically touch your bicep is excruciatingly painful. But a little soreness is good. It tells you you've used that stimulus. You've told your muscles break down so we can rebuild and get stronger.
Okay. Give us a day in the life of Dr. Megan. You wake up, I
Yeah.
want to hear what you do for physical activity, what you're eating, and any mindset things that you do to empower. So, like, just take us through because, like I said, I think we learn from, oh, wait, this is what she's doing. I can do that. It's just nice to
Yes.
hear. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, the number one habit that truly has changed my life the most is my morning routine. I am someone who, like I mentioned, is more wired to go, 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 go. I'm more on the anxious side. I could pop out of bed and just like feel like I could conquer the world. But I realized that that's not great for my adrenals and my overall stress management. So I'm intentionally trying to calm myself down in the mornings. I have this routine that I've created an acronym for called Wake Up and Go. So it's water, affirmations, knowledge. I can go through all of that if you want. But basically, it's my time to slow myself down, check in on me before I check in on what everyone else needs. So I'm not checking my phone during this time. I'm not checking the news. I'm not checking social media. I'm really just focusing on me for a few moments in the morning. Then after that, I'll do exercise. I love morning exercise. It makes me feel great. I don't think you have to, but I also think there are fewer reasons that we won't do it if it's in the morning. No one's really
Mm.
asking me for a meeting at 6 a.m. So my workout is slotted in there.
What are
And
you
the
doing?
workout,
Yeah. I want to know
yeah,
what you're doing. Yes.
it looks so different for me. I love running. I'm one of those weird people that loves running. I also know that running the way I used to run when I was like 20 is not good for my body, which is like just cardio and nothing else. So I am still running a few days a week, but I'm doing strength training. I'm doing Pilates. I have a non-negotiable for myself of 1 yoga class per week. I'm doing Peloton or cycling outside. I'm really mixing it up. I would say I probably do on average, if you're considering both weightlifting and Pilates and stuff like that as strength training, I'm probably doing 4 strength training sessions per week and probably 4 cardio sessions per week, which sounds like, well, there aren't 8 days in the week, but sometimes I'm doing both of those. This is what works for me and not the bare minimum for everyone listening. I just genuinely love exercise. So I do it in a way that helps me maximize my enjoyment, and that's it. And then the other part was, what am I eating? So I'm a big fan of a savory breakfast. And let me rephrase and say, I crave a sweet breakfast. My chocolate loving self would totally eat the chocolate bar in the morning, but I feel much better if I have a savory protein rich breakfast. So I'm generally eating some kind of crustless quiche, like a spinach artichoke crustless quiche or tomato basil. It's just like some eggs and veggies, or I'll do a breakfast hash with some ground turkey and veggies and sweet potatoes, or maybe I'll do a really bulky smoothie, but for me, it needs to be like pretty bulky to satisfy my hunger through the morning. For lunch, I may be having like I call it a power salad because it's not like a wimpy salad, not like a 3 leaves of romaine and like a cucumber. If I'm going to have a salad for lunch, it needs to have a lot of vegetables, a lot of protein, healthy fat, really be a salad that makes you feel full and well nourished. I am a snacker, so I would like to be a snacker to eat 20 snacks a day, but instead I don't. I snack strategically, so a snack might look like for me maybe some veggies and hummus and a stick of turkey jerky or some yogurt and berries, like you said before, something like that. And then for dinner, I mean, there's protein and vegetables for sure. I'm a big fan of soups and chilies and stews, so it might be something like that. It might be a stir fry. I'm also a big fan of like any kind of wrap. So I wrap like a stir fry in nori, seaweed, or like lettuce or something. I just feel like that act of making a wrap is really soothing emotionally for me for some reason.
Yes.
And then somewhere in there is going to be my chocolate. Absolutely. Generally, well, I would say 50% of the time it's after lunch, 50% of the time after dinner. And that's probably my favorite little bit of the day.
Okay, I love this so much. And you've mentioned hydration a couple times. How do we get it in?
Yes.
I will drink chai, hot
Yes.
black tea. I don't do any herbal teas. I'm like allergic to everything, so I can't even do those. So I'm not getting enough hydration. Any hacks? I don't even like hacks, but any suggestions on how to get that water in because it's important.
Yes. Well, this won't help you, unfortunately, but for everyone who's not allergic to herbal tea, I think herbal tea counts as hydration. So I'm generally sipping that all through the day, but I
Yes.
also have my water here. I
Yes.
also have a water and greens powder here. I have lots of things always with me. So I'm constantly sipping because I'm
Mm.
talking all through the day. And that's better than chugging here and there. Although, if the only way someone can get it in is to chug, I would say do it. I find for sure that when I'm more hydrated, I crave the water more. So if someone comes to me and they're like, I'm only drinking 20 ounces of water per day, they're not even thirsty. Then they start drinking more and they're like, oh my gosh, I was thirstier. Our body turns back on those signals. So I genuinely am not trying or forcing or whatever. And I drink well over my goal, which is half my body weight in pound, like well over. I
In
drink my body
ounces.
weight. Yeah, my body weight in pounds in ounces of
Right.
water.
Your body weight in pounds and ounces. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like for ease of math, if someone was 150 pounds, 75
Five
ounces of
ounces.
water for minimum is what I'm going. But I'm drinking my full body weight in ounces of water easily because I'm so thirsty because I've been practicing it for so long. If someone needs or wants electrolytes, if that makes it feel like it's really sitting with them and not just going straight through them. I don't have my rubber band bottle as an example here, but I have a bottle to show people which has some rubber band, just like elastic hair bands or whatever on it. And what I'll suggest as people are starting, let's say the bottle is 20 ounces and they're trying to drink 4 of those per day. We'll put 4 rubber bands on your wrist in the morning. And then every time you empty the bottle, put that rubber band from your wrist onto the bottle.
Oh,
And you'll
wow.
look down a million times on your wrist and think, why is there a rubber band? Oh, I need to drink my water. And that's a constant visual cue to get you to do it.
That's actually a great hack. Very doable for anyone listening. Is there
Yes.
anything? I mean, we could do, like I said, like a part two, part three. There's always so much to cover, but I feel like you gave us so many important and easy to implement things, including like maybe what labs to be looking for, how to reduce the inflammation, how to create the plate. But anything I didn't ask that you're like, I really want the women taking this away from the conversation.
I would say the one thing we didn't cover as much would be the mental frame of mind as you go into this. I know people think, and I tend to think this way too, that I could discipline myself into health because I'm really good at disciplining myself in other areas. But if we hate our body into transformation, it rarely lasts. If we love our body into transformation, it can last. So even though people are maybe rolling their eyes or thinking that's not for them, we've got to do this in a way that feels nourishing emotionally and physically. And if you're not quite there yet, think about one little shift you can make today to change your food, change your exercise, change whatever, so that you feel good instead of because you're not good enough.
I think that's a really important piece. And I actually said to my friend, I need to shift my mindset in order to be successful with this. And
Yes,
the second I
amazing.
shifted it, I was like, I'm doing this. Like once I decided, I knew I could stick with it. And then when you start seeing the results, it keeps you motivated. And
That's
then
right.
once you give up the sugar, you don't miss it. And now I'm
Yeah.
having a little honey, a little chocolate, but I'm not
Yes.
craving the cookies or the chocolate croissant. That not that there's anything wrong with those. Like you said, within your week,
Right.
in having that. And I'm sure I'll get back to that, but I'm not
Yes.
missing it. And I just want the women listening to hear that because I think once you start, you realize you don't. Your body starts adjusting just like it did with the water with you. Like once you nourish it
Exactly.
and fuel it the right way. Um,
Yes.
Anyone who wants to reach out to you or learn more about you, where do you hang out online or where should I direct them?
Yes, everything is linked on the lionsshare.org. So it's THELYONS share.org. There's how to work with our team, social media, podcast, blog, everything you need, all right there.
I've loved this conversation. You're such a joy. This has been so fun. And thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much. I've loved it as well.